Have your fantasy teams been struggling this year? Or perhaps you've been doing pretty well but want to put yourself over the top? Then make sure to visit our friends over at Finish First Fantasy Advisors. They are the premier one-on-one consulting firm that specializes in providing you with expert support to help guide you to the championship. You will be matched with one of their expert advisors to provide you with the season-long insight for your redraft, dynasty, or DFS formats. Their advisors will contact you weekly to answer all of your questions and provide you the needed information to get to the next level. Set up a free 15-minute consultation by emailing them at info@finishfirstfantasy.com or by visiting them at www.finishfirstfantasy.com. That's www.finishfirstfantasy.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SkullKing Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Sculler, and again with me today I have Mr. CJ Kraus. How's it going, CJ?
Going well, man. Oh well. Important on a Saturday morning now, so it feels a little different, but nice. Nice.
So we have an interesting week this week in dealing with our rankings because there are a lot of questions that we just don't know how to answer.
I hope we can talk this through because I want to move some things around live because I have so many little things to switch around.
So you guys are going to be getting they won't be getting it live. They'll kind of be hearing our process as we're moving some rankings around as we're doing this. So maybe we should start live streaming this too.
I mean, we could. I mean, I'm down.
I'm not going to do it today. Obviously, we're not going to do it today. I'm already recording. We're already starting this, but this is definitely
things are already going.
something to think about for next week. So what we'll do is we'll get started with the news and go over all of the injury news, all of the various reports that are coming out, and then we will dig into, like we did last week, the players that we like and don't like, or are above or below consensus from the Fantasy Pros Expert consensus. So and it's not just guys that we have like 2 or 3 spots below, but guys that are a definite difference that we feel strongly about. So with that, let's go ahead and start off with today's headlines.
Today's headlines.
All right. Well, for those of you who have been patiently waiting since like week 2, it is official finally. The Panthers have activated Christian McCaffrey.
So excited.
I have one league where I have been waiting for this for so long because I had both Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler along with Dallas Goedert all on IR at the same time.
Took a few hits that week.
And somehow have managed to be 4-4 after 8 weeks. I am so excited.
Scratch and claw.
That now I get Christian McCaffrey back. So I think that. Do you have any concerns this first week in terms of his workload?
I'm not considering anything. I think with Mike Davis emerging, but we all saw him like dip above the past few weeks. I could see like this is the most work Mike Davis is going to get being back with the Christian McCaffrey back. So maybe at worst I see a 70-30. Like in all reality, when Christian McCaffrey's on the field, they waited as long as they could with him to bring him back. So I think they just did all the right things to have him ready to take over that workload. Where you're seeing McCaffrey on the field for 85-90% of the snaps, I think they have a good backup now in Mike Davis, so it's proved himself that he can take more of the workload. So I could probably take a 70-30 the first week and then go from there, building forward with that.
Okay. I had a couple questions this week on, what do I do with Mike Davis? Do I drop Mike Davis? And I've told people no, hold on to him for at least a couple weeks. Especially Christian McCaffrey coming off of a high ankle sprain that in the past with players has been known to linger and re-aggravate. And so for me, it's more of I'd hold on to him for a couple weeks just to wait and see. I mean, if you have no other choice but to drop him because there's other options that can be picked up, awesome, go for it. But if it's one of those where you have Christian McCaffrey and maybe you also you picked up Mike Davis, and now that Christian McCaffrey is off IR, what do you do with Mike Davis? I would still, again, hold on to him for just a couple weeks to see how Christian McCaffrey is playing on that ankle. So
Yeah, I think any of those high value handcuffs, and like we've lost one essentially in Tony Paula as a high value, not because of anything going on, but because of the offense.
Yeah.
You want to hold on to going into this second half of the season because we know what players are, and a lot of like those sleepers that could have gone up the rankings already picked up. There's no higher value handcuff than Mike Davis. That's what we saw.
Yep. All right. Here's one of our favorites. So we were talking about pre-show. Pete Carroll said he is, quote, very comfortable, end quote, playing Alex Collins, who just got picked up off of waivers. For those of you, quick history, Alex Collins was originally drafted by the Seahawks, played 1 year with the Seahawks, and actually got a fair amount of playing time with the Seahawks that year. I think it was 2016, but struggled with fumbles. And then I want to say in 2017 or 2018, really had a great, or 2017 had a great year. Second half of the season with Baltimore, had a little trouble with fumbles, and then coming back the next year, again had trouble with fumbles, and ended up losing the job. So his running ability has never been an issue, but it's his ability to hold on to the ball. And so now, if he's comfortable playing Alex Collins, what do we do with DJ Dallas for our rankings?
Yeah, and Travis Homer of that factor.
Honestly, for me, Travis Homer is not as much of a factor because Travis Homer is only involved in the pass game. He's not a guy who can create his own yards in the run game. We've seen that over and over.
Yeah, I mean, I could just still the factor in who the carriers are going to be going to, and like how that it breaks down with that one. I mean, Alex Collins, we know his name mostly because he was a big like target a few years ago with like a breakout candidate. I think his ADP moved up into the third round when he's playing for Baltimore, which is one of the biggest busts. So I'm sure a lot of people are burnt off that. I don't know what to do with the players. If it was just Homer and DJ Dallas, I'd probably have DJ Dallas as an RB1 this week based on what we saw last week and what they're committing to with that workload. But saying you're comfortable with Alex Collins, but think about Pete Carroll. You always have to take it with a pinch of salt. He is the most positive coach in coach speak in the world. A guy could have one leg missing and be like, he'll be fine. He can play on Sunday, and then they roll him out.
Yeah, we're still looking at things. We're kind of see how he feels going into this week, and he lost his leg last week. Yeah, we're still watching it. We're he's really being positive about the whole experience and.
Like seriously, it's just like how big of a smiley face do you have on your board when you think of Pete Carroll on a player? It's never a frowning face on anybody.
No, never.
But yeah, I think I'm kind of tempering expectations with the whole workload. I could see because Alex Collins can get hot. I'll probably end up putting him as a high-end RB4, low-end RB3. So not playable for fantasy, but enough to be a thorn in the side of DJ Dallas.
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up DJ Dallas tempering even more than probably like I hate to say like 15 to 20 range because I think I have him at like 12 or 13 right now, and even that with the way the running back landscape is, running back 15 is like barely you want to play him because how many injuries we have, but you have to. So I think Dallas is going to lead the carries because there's a reason Collins wasn't active for so long. But
yeah. I have DJ Dallas at running back 19 right now. So
yeah.
And again, part of that is because of part of it's just being cautious, knowing that he played a great game this last week, and the Seahawks showed confidence in him when he blew an assignment at the goal line, and then the very next play they went back to him and he catches a pass for a touchdown. So
it's gonna be whoever gets hot.
Yeah,
and. If I was going to bank on anybody, DJ Dallas is going to get the first run. So
I agree. I think that the thing about DJ Dallas is also he has he has shown the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. That was never a thing for Alex Collins. He was always just run the ball. So I think that helps DJ Dallas's case.
Originally, when DJ Dallas was drafted, they were comparing him as like the CJ Pro size model when he was first picked up.
Except he's a little thicker than CJ.
I'm talking about the usage they were planning on using him as, because he has that pass catching ability. So again, if you picked up Dallas, it's good to coach. I would still put him in, but don't be surprised if he gets a RB2 game. But he has the ceiling of an RB1 week.
RB1, yep.
So,
Ravens injury report: Mark Ingram is doubtful.
fire up your J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah,
He looks so good.
You're big on Dobbins right now.
Did you watch his tape?
I have not had a chance to go back and watch them yet. So
you need to watch that tape. I believe he's the first running back to run for 100 yards on Pittsburgh this season.
So, yeah, and they're saying well, and again, we're also dealing with coach speak here. Ravens offense coordinator Greg Roman says reporters that J.K. Dobbins' role will evolve as the season goes on, which was always the plan. We'll kind of see how that works. I mean, he ran for 100 yards last week. I think what has been interesting is just how much they split the carries between all those running backs.
It was almost 50-50 last week. It was 16 carries to Gus Edwards, and it was 15 carries, I believe, to J.K. Dobbins. And I think he just did the most of those carries. He's the most electric player there. I mean, I'm not ranking him higher than RB2, just for the record. I'm not saying but I think going forward, he could definitely earn that job. But Gus Edwards will be, again, a thorn in the side with that offense. They like him, especially if they get a big lead. They'll probably be running Gus up the gut constantly. He's just that grinder of a player. But any play J.K. can take to the hops, and his balance is some of the best I've seen, barring Alvin Kamara. His vision and balance is so good when I was watching from the tape. So that's something to look forward to. So, any dynasty owners, definitely he's a keep. Even after the game, if you can have any buying window, I would be trying to get J.K. going forward.
Okay. I'm just looking at in terms of some next-gen stats.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Gus Edwards is still one of the most efficient runners we've got right now.
He's a big body. He's like the Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, just get to the line and go through it.
And he'll punt. He's got some top speed, but it takes some time to get up to that top speed is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And the way they run him is just up the gut. So again, he's an NFL running back through and through. He could play running back, but there's nothing like special like lateral agility or any kind of like things like he's a thumper that can get the top speed.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that makes for me a little difficult is having to go back and watch the tape because you don't necessarily have especially with the lack of work that he has gotten so far. He's not fitting into a lot of the metrics.
Yeah.
To compare to a lot of people.
This is his real shot.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I think from what I saw and what I've seen in his limited play, he's ascending. His arrow's pointing up with everything. So.
Kenny Golladay is ruled out for Sunday. T.Y. Hilton is doubtful. Gardner Minshew officially ruled out. Saints quarterback Drew Brees and Michael Thomas are both expected to be active. Where do you have Michael Thomas? Are you all just automatically putting him up towards the top, or are you?
No, I'm giving respect to the Tampa Bay defense, unfortunately. I'm a Saints fan for a side note, so it's really hard to take away my bias. But I believe I have him as I'm at 29 right now, and I can see that bumping up, but he's still limited in practice. I just, again, respect the Tampa Bay defense. So I'll probably end up moving him to a low end too. Because when we saw him week 1, he wasn't the Michael Thomas that we've seen before, and it's his first week back from injury. It's obviously a significant injury coming back from, and the defense is going to be honed in on him a lot. So I could see him finishing. Again, you always have the ceiling of Michael Thomas. If he's on the field, you're playing him.
Yep. Period.
So don't try to get cute with it. But I expect more of the first week back to be a limited capacity because he hasn't gotten a full practice in still. Dealing with a new injury and helping a new injury. So it's just an injury plague season. So
yeah, I think for right now I have him at 12, but again, that's just throwing him in there at 12.
We're hedging each way. You're hedging on the high end on his what he is
and you're
as a
hedging
player.
on the low end.
I'm hedging on the low end. So I think it'll probably end up finishing somewhere in between that high end to mid twos.
Yeah.
But we're both just taking the spectrum. I'm taking the injury hedge. You're taking he's Michael Thomas hedge.
Yep. Wide belief that Golden Tate gets benched week 9 for the Giants, which basically means it's all going to be Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, pretty much. And some Evan Ingram thrown in there as well. But either way, I don't like the matchup versus Washington. So I don't see either of them doing more than like a flex player or wide receiver
Yeah.
three play. Regardless, Daniel Jones has not looked good
No.
passing the ball at all. The amount of times he had missed Slayton on passes is just like the most frustrating thing being a Slayton owner. Because Slayton gets the separation, he gets open deep, and those are big plays, and those are points on the board for the team and for fantasy. And Daniel just misses them by like 5 yards.
Yeah.
So as much as I love Slayton as a player, I can't trust the matchup. I can't trust the offense. So
Philip Lindsay expected to play versus Atlanta. Where do you have Philip Lindsay, especially in relation to Melvin Gordon this week?
let me pull up my RB rankings really quick and start scrolling down. I have Melvin Gordon, RB 23, and I have Lindsay, RB 35. So,
so you like the Atlanta defense against the run game right now?
more so, I like their Atlanta defense versus the run game when they've been playing a lot better versus the run over the past few weeks. I also don't trust it's not going to be a 50-50 split or like a 60-40 leaning over to Gordon, and he hasn't done much with it. And if Lindsay wasn't hurt, I'd probably have Lindsay a little bit higher. I might have him passing Gordon a little bit.
I do have Gordon lower than Lindsay this week. I've got Philip Lindsay up at running back 20.
I mean, the way they've been playing, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and again, I'm as of right now, if Philip Lindsay plays, I'm keeping him at 20, and the reason is he was still somewhat limited going into this last week with the turf toe injury. And this is basically the same thing. It was he jammed his foot or something, or jammed his toes or something, in this last game or just after the game, and so that's why he's kind of been a little bit limited in practice this week. I think if he's full participant, ready to go for Sunday, because of his explosiveness and how much better he has been playing than Melvin Gordon, and he's been getting most of the first and second down carries, while Melvin Gordon has been utilized more in the pass game. For that reason, I'm definitely higher on Philip Lindsay for this week going into the game. Now again, I only have him at running back 20 simply because of the fact that Atlanta's defense has been that much better against the run. It's the wide receivers that they're giving everything up to.
Everything. But yeah, I mean, I can completely agree. I just any kind of toe injury, especially with an explosive player, can like shut them down with the game at any time, especially with the running back. So again, I'm kind of like ranking a little bit lower. It wouldn't surprise me, but I won't see him finishing higher than a mid-range RB2, like at their ceiling this week, unless they break away a big play. But that's any player.
Yeah. All right. A couple more. Darnold and Crowder were both limited in practice on Friday. Do you think Crowder plays this week?
I mean, I haven't ranked right now as if he does, because I always like rank until they get pulled out. But
where do you have him ranked if he plays?
You're asking me questions, and I don't have it up yet. Hold on, I have my RBs up. I think I'm as a wide receiver 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've got him right there.
36. I'm exactly up 36.
I'm at 33. I think that the consensus as a whole, I don't think has taken into account the fact that he might play, because the expert consensus
60.
right now has him like 75 or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people take the reverse. I just kind of put everyone. I think it's faster and easier to commit to everyone's playing and then pull them out. That's what.
Yep.
So sometimes you'll see my rankings throughout the week of like, why is this player questionable? Like I had like Chris Carson at 19 for most of the last week.
Yep.
Like that. So I leave them in until it's gone, and then I pull them out, or until it's like definitely trending that way, because I think it's easier by the model I use to have it that way. So New England's been really good with this pass as well. So even the slot receivers have not been doing a lot versus them. So that's kind of puts them down there. Plus the injury designation down there, whether he plays or not, if he plays the full game. So 36 is where I have him if he plays. So he's a low-end wide receiver 3 you probably have better options for. So either way, he's probably on your bench.
Yeah. So I think for me, unless you're in deeper leagues, was it the 18 and 16 team leagues that I'm in, I have Jamison Crowder in one where if he is playing, he is going to be in my lineup. And again, it's mainly because of the amount of targets that he gets.
Mm-hmm.
Averaging 11.5 targets a game when he plays. So,
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, a couple other things. Cowboys offense coordinator Kellen Moore said it's a wait and see thing on how much running back Ezekiel Elliott can do Sunday versus the Steelers. Confident in the depth behind him. I mean, I've obviously moved Ezekiel Elliott down. Do you think? Is he playing on Sunday with the hamstring?
I mean, if it's flaring up at all, I think they're gonna sit him. They're like not playing for. They have a great backup in Tony Pollard. It's versus the Pittsburgh run defense, which is one of the best run defenses in the NFL by far. Why would you risk this player you put so much money into?
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, a lost season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I was really high on Dallas going into the season, really excited for them. But the second Dak went down, you're going to your fourth string quarterback for this game because of Andy Dalton not eligible to play. I don't see why you risk Zeke, especially with the hamstring, so they can pop up more. Why not give him the rest? I have him ranked currently at RB17 if he does play.
I have him at 15.
Yeah,
right now,
so we're both around the same range in that one. But I would say 70% they set him.
Yep.
So make arrangements for
a new thing just came up on Sleeper. Sam Darnold won't practice and is doubtful to play Monday. So in my opinion, Joe Flacco is expected to start for the Jets, which if Crowder does play, does knock him down a little bit in my opinion.
I'm going to change my rankings a little bit.
That's just because of the fact that Flacco does not target Crowder quite as much as Sam Darnold. I want to say one of those games that Crowder played, he still did get 10 targets from Flacco.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as much in terms of his target share. And then, we'll get to how that's going to affect one of your other rankings.
Oh, it just did. It just he is dropping. And I haven't done the math on it yet. I just put a guesstimation where I'm going to have him.
All right, so we will take a look at that.
I'll bring it up, but he's not. Yeah. I'm not as bullish on that guy anymore.
And the last one that I'm gonna talk about here is Jacobs did not practice on Thursday. I have not seen anything about him today, dealing with the knee and illness. What are your thoughts on Jacobs for this week?
I mean, I think he plays, but I don't think he has a good matchup. I think I have him at RB18 right now, and that's just because he got bumped up by a player getting moved behind him based on the news we just had.
I've got him at 14.
Yeah,
but in the process of again reevaluating to move him down even more.
I mean, he's a workload running back.
Yeah,
and if your knee's banged up, you're not going to get the workload that you would have normally got. I think this is more of a boost to players like Darren Waller or like Hunter Renfrow, because a lot of times the running backs correlate to the tight end more than any other position. And I like Derek Carr in this matchup this week. That's going to be a shootout because I like both teams to put points on the board. So I think it's less of
both teams put points on the board, and both defenses are terrible against the pass.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And Jacobs has been known to kind of disappear already in a pass-heavy game, so that's something to consider. But if he's in, you're playing him because he has that ability. But I would still temper expectations. I have him as a low end RB2. You have him as a high end RB2.
Yeah. So. And again, that's with still doing some more evaluations and possibly moving him down even more. Yeah, that's already in my mind on this one. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead in just a second and move into our. It's not even necessarily our sleepers and busts. It's more of just. What are we doing with our rankings compared to the rest of the industry?
What's our big thoughts?
Yeah, it's more of so maybe we need to figure out. Maybe I need to figure out a new title for this section, just so we can get a cool little bit for it, cool little intro bit for it. But before we get started, I want to again, like I mentioned in every episode, talk to you guys about Dr. Squatch Soaps. They are a handmade, high quality. Made in the USA soap company that I absolutely love their products. They do not only soap, but they also do shaving bars. They have shaving equipment that you can use. They make toothpaste and other things that are great for men's hygiene. A lot of great scents. I mean, they've pine tar bar, a soap that's actually black because the pine tar and everything in it. They have one called Nautical Sage. They have ones to help with dry skin. All sorts of great products for men. Again, all natural ingredients. Make sure to check them out when you go to drsquatch.com, and when you order anything or any amount of products over $20, you can get 20% off by entering in the promo code SKS20 at checkout. So again, when you go to drsquatch.com, when you order, you get 20% off of any order over $20 by using the promo code SKS20. Make sure to do that so that you can get that discount. They do offer subscriptions where you can get I think it's for $6 a month. You get a bar of soap every month, and you can kind of interchange, or you can get a group of bars every 3 months. And so again, make sure to check them out, drsquatch.com, and check out their products. I absolutely love them, and have already recommended them not only to you guys here on the podcast but to family members as well. So. All right.
Cool. I just want to interject really fast. News just broke, like right when you were talking about Dr. Schultz. We have the Zeke expected to miss week 9.
All right.
Literally. So I kind of want to talk about this now that we just brought it up. We just finished. I'm pulling Zeke out. How high are you putting Pollard?
I had already moved Pollard up a little bit simply because I was expecting Zeke to possibly miss. This puts Pollard at 35. I may move him up to around 30.
Yeah, I just kind of threw him somewhere without doing any crunching of numbers.
Yeah.
To 31. He was at 37.
Yeah, I had him at 35. I'm probably going to put him right around 30.
So, yeah, again, with that lost season, he's definitely a running back you can play. Definitely someone to speculative add if the matchups get better and Dalton comes back and everything, in case how long the Zeke injury lasts for. But I would definitely be leaning more towards not playing him this week. But definitely someone you should speculatively add if he's still available on your waivers. Cool.
I don't have room to speculatively add any more players at this point. So, all right. So let's start it off. Let's start off with the quarterbacks. Let me pull up the actual the quarterback report in terms of where I am compared to the expert consensus. Wow, I thought I had more guys that were off by more than that. So apparently I didn't. So the only guy as of right now, I think people are actually going through right now and doing their changes.
Are they live?
I think so because I just checked and like a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I had like 4 guys that were 4 positions greater or lower than the expert consensus. And now I have one guy that I have 5 positions higher and one guy that I have 4 positions lower.
Oh, so, wow. Let me check. Let me refresh mine really fast to see like where my calls are. Cool. Yeah, with everything going on right here, I still have 3 guys, 4 higher, and then I have Stafford higher than most, and then Derek Carr I'm pretty high on. So I got some guys to talk about.
Yeah. So okay. So I mean the one that I have, so that I can just get it out of the way. The one that I have higher than anyone else. Then the expert consensus is Derek Carr again, and we talked about this a little bit. Was the fact that the Chargers defense has been very bad as of late. Over their rolling 5-week average, they're giving up 4.8 points above their rolling average over the last 5 weeks to quarterbacks, 3.5 points to wide receivers. And again, they're 3.5 under. They're giving up 3.5 points less in the Harris Index to running backs. So again, we talked about volume with Jacobs, and it looks like this could be one of those games where it's going to be a little bit tougher for Jacobs, which is going to open things more up for Derek Carr with these offenses in a likely shootout.
No, I totally agree. They're, if you're looking on fantasy points allowed, they're the number 4 best matchup. So
Yep.
they've given up 23.2 fantasy points per game on average to quarterbacks. To kind of break that down a little more without using the Harris Index too, kind of see both sides of it. They also let Drew Lock score 20 fantasy points against them. And have you seen Drew Lock play football? Like, Drew Lock should not be scoring 20 fantasy points versus anybody. Anyhow.
Well, I was going to say, to go along with that, who is Derek Carr's normally his favorite target to throw to?
It's Darren Waller.
Okay. The Chargers are also give up the 9th most amount of fantasy points per week to tight ends. So that just means it's already a juicy matchup.
Yeah.
Right there, because Darren Waller, I may have Darren Waller as my number 1 tight end this week just because the matchup is so good. I mean, I already have it number 2. Yeah. And it's hard to knock down Travis Kelce from that number 1 slot just because of the volume there.
Because he's Travis Kelce.
Yeah, he's Travis Kelce. But this is one of those ones where I could see myself. There is an argument to put Darren Waller above Travis Kelce this week.
No, I agree. There's definitely an argument there. I can see the range of outcomes being that. Darren Waller essentially plays the wide receiver role at tight end.
Yeah.
With the volume that he gets. So he's not the prototypical tight end. He also has play of the catch ability, things like that to go with it. I just think, I have him at 7. I'm pretty high on Carr this week. I think it's going to be a shootout. To kind of build in the next one, I have Herbert at 2 again because I am the president of the Justin Herbert fan club, apparently. I have 2 fan clubs I'm the president of. Apparently, Justin Herbert is one of them. I had him as 2 last week. He finished as QB3 last week versus the Broncos, and I think the Broncos are a better defense versus the pass than Las Vegas, and I think Vegas can keep up with them. So to hit both those, I like all this is kind of one of those matches where you fire almost everybody up.
Yeah, I have Herbert at 4.
And you're learning. You're moving.
No. Last week I had him at 4 too. I think you had him at 2. I had him at 4, and he finished at quarterback 3. So, and so I'm with you there. I think Justin Herbert again is in for another big. I think the expert consensus actually has Herbert at like 5 or 6. So
him at 6. Yeah, last week they had him like 11, and I was like 9 points ahead. So I think as a whole, people are starting to realize what Herbert has been doing and continues to do. He chucks it. He's not afraid to and he's got the cannon to hit guys that are like Guyton. No one knows who that was before this, and he's been like a sleeper in dynasty fashions because he's catching those deep bombs.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right. What is there anyone else that you have?
I had Aaron Rodgers at 3, which looks really good now, but no reason to talk about that. I have Tom Brady at QB4 because that says him at 8. You're playing him if you have him, but I'm kind of giving that stamp to definitely put him in.
Yeah, I have him at 6. Again, the New Orleans defense, just over their rolling week average, 5-week average, gives up a little bit extra to quarterbacks and gives up a lot extra to wide receivers. And then you look at the wide receiver core with the Buccaneers, where they've got Evans and they've got Godwin back this week. It's pain management in his hand, and then they add AB to the mix. That's potent right there.
Yeah, no, it's totally one of the best, definitely pass catchers in the NFL, if not the best, with that group, such as the Gronk there as a tight end playing through. But yeah, so I'm pretty high on Brady this week. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think they want it to be a shootout because it's Brady versus Breeze, and this is kind of like a narrative, but going for the going for the touchdown record.
Yeah.
So I think both of them want to throw touchdowns, especially head to head.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of I'm not down on Kamara, but I'm down on Ronald Jones and a couple of those players and Leonard Fournette because I think Brady's going to be throwing it, and I think Breeze is going to be throwing it, but Breeze is hurt, so I think Brady's going to have a better game, unfortunately.
Yep. All right, what quarterbacks are you down on this week, comparatively?
I mean, there isn't anything I'm too down on. I just have guys that I'm higher on, so I move down guys like Mahomes, Watson, and Murray to below consensus, but they're still 6, 8, and 9 respectively.
I still have Watson at number 2 for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 8, but again, there's so many good quarterback matchups this week. I wouldn't be surprised if he does much better than them. The weather's going to play some factor in there with his deep ball, but because check down is a 40-yard pass to Will Fuller. Like, that's what he does. He doesn't throw it to that short Duke Johnson level. So I think that's where I could see him falling to like 8. He's going to have a little bit less of a connection there than normal because the weather, I believe, is like 17 mile an hour, which has a slight effect on a deep ball.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking minute differences between my quarterback, even 1 down to 9 and 10, like 1 or 2 points. Like I've been like staggering them. So I don't really think those are like too out there because they're still definitely QB1. Mahomes can throw 5 touchdowns sometimes if he wants. He could also play game manager, so I'm kind of hedging there. But ECR has him at 1, I have him at 6 because I just like other matchups right now.
Yeah, I moved him down to 3. And again, maybe I'm playing a little bit of a homer, but I can't help but put Russell Wilson at number 1, no matter what the defense is that he's going up against.
I mean, I have Russell Wilson at 1. You can't, the way he's been playing, like, you can't not put him at 1.
And the other part of that also is the fact that Chris Carson isn't playing, and so he's still going to be dumping off to the running backs a whole lot in this game. So
I mean, I think that's where the game's going to be going to, like that, the way the Buffalo matchup is. But we'll probably talk about that more soon.
Yep.
The one person I'm really low on is Ben Roethlisberger. ECR has him at 10 right now. I have him at in the 20 range.
Why? Is that big? And again, I understand it that Dallas is really bad against the run, and so they're obviously going to be using a lot of James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
But the entire defense is bad.
I see
and
this
so why
getting,
that low?
I see this getting out of hand quicker than we think, and I could see Ben not needing to throw as much. And I think it's one of those games that looks great on paper, but it becomes such a big blowout that we're not going to see as many reasons to throw.
I can see that.
Just because I just don't think that Dallas is going to be able to do anything at all. Zeke's going to be out. They're on their 4th string. Well, probably going to be out, more than likely, what they've released. They're on their 4th string QB. We don't know what that's going to be, who it's going to be even at this point. And I just don't see Ben needing to do a lot in that matchup. So I think it's going to be more so the run game and then some like clock management. And I think Pittsburgh's completely happy doing that. So yeah, especially working with an older Ben, I think they're going to want to try to save him for matchups they need him in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I right now I have him at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Again, looking at just knowing how much they're going to use Connor, and really it could. Okay. Is there I think that basically covers the quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's all I got.
So let's move into the running backs. Does that let's go ahead and talk. The running backs for the Steelers. I mean, James Conner is already, he's way up there in terms of the expert consensus.
What does ECR have him at?
Number 5.
Okay.
I have him at number 3.
I have him at 6.
So
I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think ECR is already in the same boat as we are.
Yeah.
But I think ECR is also factoring. I think it's going to be like a huge point dump on the Pittsburgh side. I don't think they're taking into account that like Dallas can't keep up, and when a defense can't keep up, it gets disappointing.
Yeah.
On fantasy. So
yeah. So do you move up the backup running backs at all out of non, because the way that just for reference for everyone for how they do scoring on Fantasy Pros for our rankings, they take the top 40 in the expert consensus and then add in anyone else who finished in the top 40 scoring for running backs. I think for quarterbacks it's top 15 or top 20. Wide receivers, it's top 50. So it's the top 50 scorers and the top 50 in the expert consensus. So there are some that, lower ranked guys that get bumped up into that number to be added into the tabulation. And so do you have, or would you be willing to put any of the other running backs from the Steelers, like a Benny Snell, near running back 40?
I actually have Benny Snell at 42.
Yeah, I've got him at 46 for right now.
I mean, I could choose some shuffle around. I've got like Brian Hill near him. I've got James White, Jordan Howard, things like that around that same range. Gus Edwards. So I've got him like bumped up into like a running back that will score fantasy points.
Okay.
So like a super deep league, a desperation play, like 14, 16 team, you're decimated by injuries, you got hit with the bye week. Sure, you could chuck him in there, but that there's no way you're playing a regular fantasy. But I do have him in like the 40s. So I could see that game script going that way, and they're prone to use Snell first, even though McFarland's kind of the spark plug of the backups.
All right, so running backs that you have higher than anyone else. We already kind of talked about my, one of mine is Philip Lindsay that I've got at running back 19 right now, where the expert consensus has him at running back 29. The only other one that I have anywhere close to being a big difference between ECR is where I have DJ Dallas for right now at 18, where I'm wondering how many people just haven't updated their rankings, and we'll do that either tonight or tomorrow morning with the news of Chris Carson not playing.
Yeah. I mean, I currently have DJ Dallas at 12, but I could see that moving around. I don't know what to do with that Seattle running backs. I'm probably going to shuffle that some more. I got some more working with that one. My biggest one that I know you've wanted to talk about from the start, he has moved down to my running back 18 without me doing any kind of like reshuffling or like math or anything like that. LaMichael Pirine. ECR has him at running back 34. I had him as high as 14 before all the news broke during the pod. So I'm pretty high on the matchup. New England is one of the defenses we're like prone to saying, oh, they're one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I think they're much better versus the pass and the run. With their injuries they've had to run nickel way more often than they'd like to kind of just like get by, to kind of keep themselves in the game, even though they haven't been winning games, but to keep themselves in a position to win. And running backs have been gashing them. They give up the 9th most fantasy points to the running back position. Currently, in rolling 5 weeks, it's been getting worse and worse. It's bumped them up so much. And I think P. Ryan is the one that's going to get the quality touches. Gore, I still have a little bit higher than ECR as well. I think I'm at like running back in the 30s. ECR is at 46. So I think it's going to be like, especially if they go to Flacco, they're going to try to game manage and run more, and Pirine has the ability to break some plays that I put him in that RB2 range.
Okay.
Based on the way the defense runs. So the middle of the field is going to be open for him for those checkdowns. I think he's a good enough runner to get enough to hit that RB2 threshold.
Well, you convinced me enough to at least put him up to running back 20 right now.
Nice. Going in this one, we were just like, why?
Yeah, well, going into it, I was more like, why have him that high? Like, I honestly would have knocked him down a little bit in general just because of Joe Flacco and not Sam Darnold playing. But again, I am not as good. I mean, if you look at where our rankings are season to date for positions, you are much higher than me at running backs. I don't know where you are at wide receivers.
I think you have me at wide receivers. I believe I am currently the 6th highest ranker on running backs on the season.
Yeah, and I'm number 21. I think I'm in the 60s. I think I'm like 65 out of on guys. I think total on the season there's 160 people still left, because if you miss 1 week at one position, you're out of the contest for the year. So
gotta get number 1 the next week.
So I think I'm at number 21 on wide receivers after finishing number 6 last week. But I'm like in the mid 60s in running backs. So
yeah, your season can definitely change on the accuracy pretty quick.
Yeah.
And you need to like do the opposite really soon, like have like a huge week. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. But you just do the best you can at everything.
Well, I have improved my quarterbacks this year over as we've gone through the season. I was at like number 120, 125 for like the first 3 weeks, and then had a couple of mediocre weeks, and I think I'm in like the 80s now in quarterback, which I've always been one of the worst quarterback rankers over the last 3 years that I've been part of the contest.
So I just double checked. I misspoke. I was number 6 on the week last week. I'm number 2 on the season for running backs.
Okay. So
yeah, I was like, I thought I was a little bit higher, but I reversed them. I was
and again, this is why when it comes to running back, when I want to get your thoughts on running backs and why I will adjust my rankings based on some of your. Now I may still have a differing opinion on some guys, but overall I will make adjustments based on your research and what you're looking at.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I just do my best to get what I can with everything, but yeah, I just see the way the defense has been playing that P. Ryan is definitely a start more than a sit this week.
Okay, so running backs you're not as high on.
Let me get back to that screen. There we go. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. ECR has him at 9. I have him at 22.
Really?
Yeah. The workload has been split essentially 60-40 or 50-50 since Lev Bell has gotten there.
It's been one game that they've played together.
But like the way they've 6-6 on the carries with that one, and the way they've been using them, a lot of the practice reports are showing Bell getting more play. I mean, they signed Bell for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest things with that. I'm not saying not to play him. I'm saying just temper expectations. That's when I have someone at like 22s and things like that. The matchup also isn't the best out there.
Yeah, Carolina has. I mean, okay, Carolina has given up the 4th most amount of points to the running back. However, looking at it, their running 5-week average is they're holding players a couple of points below.
Yeah, we get so caught into what happened early season.
Yeah.
That we forget how defenses progress throughout the season. And the Carolina was is a very young defense.
They are.
They needed to come together with that. So like you can't just look at a blanket number like, oh, they've given up this many points at all times, which we talk about sometimes, but you also need to look at week over week, what's the change that happened. And the way the arrows are pointing, I'm seeing that Clyde Edwards-Helaire's workload is dipping and he hasn't been completely efficient with everything he's gotten already. And Carolina is more ascending in their defenses against the run. So still an RB2. Still definitely someone that could finish a little bit higher than what I have him ranked. But just the way my rankings like shuffled out and the way the my model was showing, that's just where he ended up at RB22.
Okay. The other I mean so with that I've knocked him down a little bit. I have him at 13, maybe knock him down a little bit more. Not a huge thing, knocking someone down, but I don't have Derrick Henry as a top 5 running back this week. I've got him at 7, simply because going up against Chicago.
I believe I'm with you on that. Let me double check. I have him down at 11. So we are in agreement.
Yeah, well, yeah, and again, you tend to go a little more extreme on the running backs than I do, and I think I tend to go a little more extreme on the wide receivers than you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty aggressive in my rankings. I have people like Todd Gurley above him, David Johnson.
I have Todd Gurley. I have Henry at 9. I've moved Henry down to 9. Looking again at some of the stats, and Todd Gurley at 11.
Yeah, I've got that flip flop. I've got Gurley at 9 and Henry at 11. I also put Aaron Jones over at a running back 8 this past week, so I kind of somebody can't move. So that kind of shovels things. So it's not like an indictment on Henry. It's a respect to the matchup. It's a
respect to the defense. Yep.
Because Henry can definitely break off a 90-plus yard run and make us all look foolish. But I think Chicago is that good of a run defense that they can hold him in check, because Henry's been known to be held in check before.
Yeah. One of the things that was pointed out to me in another show, Derrick Henry blows up the AFC South defenses. That's not as much the case when he's not going against the AFC South.
Interesting. I haven't looked at those kind of splits before. So.
But think about all of his biggest games.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, Houston, and who else is in that division? The Colts. That's kind of been back and forth. I mean, you think about all of his biggest games have always seemed to go against Jacksonville and Texas.
Mm-hmm. 2 of the worst run defenses.
Yeah.
As well.
So.
Yeah. Not saying Henry can't. Just we both have him as an RB1. We're playing Derrick Henry.
You're playing Derrick Henry. You're not going to not play Derrick Henry.
Because he has that ability on any play to truck 2 guys and carry a guy on his back all the way to the end zone.
Yeah. Again, and I think what we need to state here is even when we have guys knocked down in our rankings, it's not necessarily. I mean, I know there's a lot of people saying, you start your studs no matter what. And while there is a reason and a truth behind that, at the same time, there is, if you just start your studs every time, you're not going to win all the time. You are going to lose. There are going to be bad matchups, and what we try to do is we try to find those. And I think what we're saying with Derrick Henry is you're still going to start him. You're going to start Derrick Henry. But don't be surprised if he doesn't come in, or if he comes in a little bit below what's projected for him, simply because of the matchup. It's don't be surprised if he doesn't meet expectation. But you're still going to start him.
I think this goes more into fantasy philosophy on your flex positions more than anything else. Like knowing where your studs are going to be realizing where they're going to end up, and then trying to figure out the range of outcomes that you want to use for the rest of your lineup.
Yeah.
So I think it comes more of the philosophy of where you want to, do I want to go riskier with my flex? Do I think I'm going to need to make up points for this player here that usually scores 20 points a game, and now he's going to score
13.
9. Yeah, some range of outcomes that's much lower. So it's I think it's more of a fancy philosophy when it comes to looking at what you guys think. But RB1, play him. We're just a little bit lower and temper your expectations on, unless he breaks a big play.
Any other? I think the other major running back that I think that both you and I have well below the consensus is James White is basically droppable in any league less than 14 players, I think.
Oh, does he actually count as a running back still? I've got him at 44.
I've got him at 47.
Are people considering playing James White still?
Expert consensus ranking still has him at 35. So I mean, the fact that means that he's still at for most people in the expert consensus, he's rosterable. I don't even think he's rosterable right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that.
Maybe in 12-team leagues, but in anything less than that, if you have a 10-team league and James White is on your roster, stop it.
Stop. I mean, you're not wrong on that one. There's definitely better guys. Where do you have Damian Harris this week? Out of curiosity, because he's the guy you would kind of be. He's tied to that offense as well.
I have him up at 21.
I'm at 20. Okay, so we're both in the same boat.
Yeah.
There. So mid to low RB2.
Yep.
With matchup. So yeah, we both agree on that one. So that's where I'm at too. I think he's definitely taking the reins on that one until Sony Michel comes back. And with Cam Newton playing, they don't check down.
No.
The only time Cam Newton's ever checked down to a running back is Christian McCaffrey. And that's because he's Christian McCaffrey and you get the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're in agreement on that one.
And based on reports, yeah, I think that looks like that's about where everyone else has him too. So
yeah, he didn't come up when I was looking at the things. I was just curious.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to wide receivers. Guys that we have above consensus right now. I think the big major one is going to be Chris Godwin, but just because I think not enough people have actually gotten into their rankings to look at where he's going to be, and where they want to put him. And Jamison Crowder, again, I have him up at 33, but now knowing that Joe Flacco, just being announced that Joe Flacco is going to be, he's going to drop. So
every pass catcher, I mean, not they even were high, they're all going to be bumped down.
Yeah,
with the Flacco drop.
So I think that the highest one that I've got looking at. We talked about this a little bit. I don't know if we were talking about this before the show or not. Mm-hmm. I have David Moore. I have him at 36 just because I was just putting him up there around an area where it would be relevant. Because we talked about this game against Buffalo could be interesting for Seattle, again, with not having their top running backs again. David Moore has found a way to keep himself in that wide receiver 4 conversation because he gets targets and inexplicably manages to get red zone targets when you don't expect it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that one. This can kind of branch into where I have the other pass catchers ranked because I'm lower on consensus on and this can come to bite me. But DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I think the defense is going to be honing on those, that the other pass catchers are going to be the ones like the David Moore and maybe even a couple Greg Olsen plays, but I don't bank on that by any means. But
I'm not putting any faith right now in the tight ends for Seattle. Looking at the distribution of targets and everything, and with how many tight ends they now have for Seattle. I mean, they just dropped Luke Wilson, so they now only have 4 tight ends.
Only 4. I'm saying I could see the distribution go more so to others than the usual funnel to DK and Lockett. I'm still playing both of them, but I'm just lowering the consensus on that. We'll talk about that a little more later. But yeah, I didn't have David Moore kind of like in my model yet, but since we've been talking, we talked a little bit before the show. I moved him up to a wide receiver 3. Not sure exactly where I'm putting him. Somewhere probably between 31 and 35.
Yeah, and like I said, right now I have him at 36. So
yeah.
The other, I mean, this one's already out, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I had at wide receiver 45 when the expert consensus had him at 60.
There you go. Take your victory lap.
I will. And honestly, I think it's some of those types of calls that I've made with wide receivers. Like last week we talked about Braxton Berrios and Jacoby Myers, and you were wondering who I had above who, and why I played. You're like, why did you play Braxton Berrios when you were just high on Jacoby Myers? I actually had him one spot above Jacoby Myers, so I think I had them at 40 and 41 last week. So this week, I think the guys that I've really moved up in rankings, again, Jamison Crowder, who's going to be moving down, David Moore, who, again, looking at the defense, and this is, again, I'm going to be looking at what to do with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett a little bit deeper. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then the other guy that I have a little bit higher is Cole Beasley. I have him at 29 because, again, looking at the Seattle defense, I understand. I mean, Stephon Diggs, right now, expert consensus has him at number 4. I've dropped him down to number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Seattle, for the most part, if you look at the distribution of production from wide receivers, it is rarely the wide receiver 1 who gets the most work and has the most production because they focus on that wide receiver 1. It's the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 that blow up in their faces.
I mean, we're in agreement. I have Diggs at 12 this week.
Yeah. So
I agree. Diggs can play anywhere on the field, but I think he's just a low-end one, not a usual top 5 play that he normally is. I've also got a lot of calls above him right now, and I currently have Chris Godwin as my wide receiver 2, but I don't know where to put any of the Tampa Bay pass catchers at all right now. So, yeah, I agree with that. To kind of segue into that one, I want to talk about this. Where do you have Godwin, Evans, and AB? Because that's like my biggest struggle is where to put those guys.
All right, so for right now, let me look where I've got Godwin right now at wide receiver 19, and again, the reason for that is because it's a hand injury, and so it's about pain management. I know that in the NFL they have things like they can do whether it's a cortisone shot or just taking massive amounts of ibuprofen, whatever they want to do to manage pain. And Chris Godwin
is going to wear a splint though too.
Huh?
There's been reported he's wearing a splint for the game.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see how that affects his catching ability with the splint. So for me, I have currently Mike Evans at wide receiver 16, Godwin at 19, and AB at 35.
Okay.
Again, that's another one of those because it's later in the day. It's the Sunday night game. I tend to wait on the Sunday night and Monday games. I tend to go through just what's the order of games on the day and just kind of go through them and kind of adjust things as I see there. Again, I think the Mike Evans, I understand that Lattimore's going to be going up against him, and Lattimore for the most part has been able to shut him down. But when Mike Evans beats Lattimore, it's big. And we talked about his big playability. And so because of that, I'm trying to give a little respect to Mike Evans there. Godwin, again, I have a hard time putting guys coming off of injury, especially one where they're still going to be dealing with the pain, too high. And usually it bites me. Like last week, I couldn't put Dalvin Cook at wide receiver or at running back number 1. Had I done that, instead of being like number 65 or 55 in running back rankings last week, I probably would have been in the top 10, simply because of the difference of points for that gap right there. But I had him in like running back 5 or 6 just because, again, dealing with a groin injury, and I understand he had a full practice in, but coming off a multi-week injury, I have a hard time just automatically putting them back up in their normal spot.
Yeah, you play a little bit safer in the rankings than I do sometimes, and sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it bites me in the butt. So, yeah, I mean, I think the thing I've Godwin so high. I'm not sure I'm gonna keep him at like number 2, but I think I'm gonna keep him in a wide receiver 1 range because they're gonna play him because they're gonna need him, ideally. And where early in the season I had New Orleans as like a definitely a smash spot for tight end. They've been guarding the tight end a lot better, but losing out the slot receivers. And that's where Godwin plays. A lot of the time.
Well, just in general for wide receivers overall, they're rolling last 5 weeks. They're 6.5 points above average.
Yeah, but if you
giving
look,
up to the wide receiver.
It's mostly been a lot to slot receivers, like a lot of receptions to the slot.
True. So and again, so that's more just in general to the wide receivers, and realizing that spot that's giving up the most is to the slot receivers. I'm probably going to move Godwin up a little bit more. Again, we just seeing that he was going to play, I automatically just moved him up. He's going to be in the top 20, and then it's just where from there am I going to adjust him?
Yeah, I've got Evans actually at 21 right now. I'm respecting the lateral matchup, but I also respect Evans' big playability. I just don't think that he's that big play guy as much as he used to be in that offense because he doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
that's not the way Brady plays.
Yeah, if it was Jameis Winston, yeah, he'd still be like I'd probably have him at wide receiver 12.
Yeah, I'm kind of hedging this one a little bit with AB. I have him at 30. Yeah, exactly 30. So I could see that flip-flopping with Evans easily. Like Lattimore's on Evans, and there's not going to go to him because Brady doesn't force anything. He throws to the open man.
Yeah,
and I feel like Godwin doesn't need his finger to get open, so he's going to get some good passes there. If his catch rate drops a little bit, that would make sense. And I think AB has the ability to get open versus the lesser corners. So where Jameis would force it a little bit, I think that Brady's going to be more cautiously playing the game. So that's the biggest thing there and why I have that one. I could see them all kind of scrunching together, but I think one's going to be wide receiver 1, one's going to be wide receiver 2, one's going to be wide receiver 3, and I don't know which one is which. Is my biggest problem.
Right now, I could see AB finishing, again, looking at with just last year, knowing that Antonio Brown right now is living with Tom Brady in his house. So Tom Brady has been begging the Buccaneers to sign him. And just looking at the one game last year that AB played with the Patriots, and it was like the first quarter he went off, and at that point, and at that point, I mean, yeah, I guess I understand they were playing Miami, but after that, they didn't need to do anything else. I think they ran the ball most of the rest of the game, and was AB finished with what? Was it a couple of touchdowns?
He got one touchdown. It was like 13 fantasy points, half PPR. He got one touchdown, I believe 5 catches.
Yeah, but I mean, it was all in the first quarter, and after that, they just kind of coasted. So,
no, I could totally see an AB on a pitch count. Is why I'm kind of speculatively having lower.
Again, and I understand that. So it's again, but I think when he's out there, while Tom Brady does not tend to force the ball, I can see him maybe forcing one or two AB's way.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
the point is just put him in and see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at with that one. Like if you have him, you're playing them, and I think the lowest floor of any of them is Mike Evans.
Correct. So,
in my opinion, yeah.
All right, so guys that we are down on in wide receivers, have we covered? I mean,
we talked a little bit on
a bit.
Yeah, I mean the Seattle, I'm a little bit lower on them. I have as wide receiver 2s, which could again bite me. but I think it's going to be more funneled to the great corners that Buffalo has to kind of keep them in check. Do I think they're going to get a couple big plays? Yeah. I think there's just so many other good matchups. They kind of just got bumped down little by little. And I can see David Moore having a bigger game, like we talked about.
I can see that. I mean, I still have both of them in my top 6.
I mean,
that's more of a one of them is going to go off. It's just a matter of which one's it going to be.
Yeah, you're hedging the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm hedging that one of them is not going to go off and putting the opposite near them. Again, we're doing that opposite thing where we're committing to one side or the other. I'm committing to a lesser game because I could see this being like a David Moore and everyone's angry at fantasy. But Lockett and DK are going to get their couple in there as well. I'm a low consensus on some of the Dallas wide receivers. We've talked about that.
Yeah, same. Well, I mean, I'm not as far below probably, but at the same time, I mean, I'm just.
Yeah. Devontae Parker, I'm pretty low on. That's something to bring up. I have him at wide receiver 41, consensus 28. Tua did not look good.
Do I have?
I don't know.
I've got him at 30, but that's just because I haven't looked at that one as closely. I mean, I'm dropping him down. I'm dropping him down as well.
Yeah, the targets aren't there. The offense isn't as good. He passes to the running back.
Yep.
More than the wide receivers. So that's someone where I'm going to look at Patrick Laird more, which is weird to say, and figure out where I need to put him. Because he's probably, I have him at 72. I need to put him in somewhere. I didn't even realize he was playing until Brady was ruled out. So
yeah, same here. So that's another adjustment I'm gonna have to make. But
yeah, that's some of my bigger ones. I mean, I'm a little bit lower on the Tennessee wide receivers based on how I see the game script, but
and again, that I think also with the Tennessee wide receivers, you also have to look at again they're going against the Chicago defense.
Yeah,
that Chicago rolling average over the last 5 weeks, they're holding wide receivers wide receivers as a whole 8 points under average. So
that defense has won them all their games.
Yes.
And I can see A.J. Brown having a wide receiver 2 week versus a wide receiver 1 week. And I think this is the one, a trap game where you keep believing in Corey Davis. I love Corey Davis.
Same.
I will say that. But I have him as a sit this week because of the matchup.
Yeah, it's the matchup base. And overall, the Chicago Bears are the third best team against wide receivers. And then you look at not only the entire season they've been playing that well, over the last 5 weeks, they're holding wide receivers 8 points under average. So there, that's just a bad matchup right there for wide receivers.
Yeah, ECR is A.J. Brown at 12. I have him in the 20s. Again, you're playing him, but just barring a big play, I can't see him finishing in 12.
Yeah.
Based on what I see with everything else.
Yeah, and for me, I haven't finished going through my wide receiver rankings. I mean, I have him right now at A.J. Brown at 11, but again, I'm still was working through a lot of what I consider my deficiencies in ranking and working through quarterbacks and running backs because that's where I've struggled the most and trying to figure out those things. So,
yeah, so those are like the big ones I'm differing on. So, but
all right, last but not least, let's move on to tight ends.
There we go.
Okay, El Presidente. Let's go ahead and the president of the Logan Thomas fan club. Please state your case.
So, I didn't mean to get elected the president of Logan Thomas fan club. It kind of just happened to me. But ECR 16, I have him at my current tight end 3. Over the games since Kyle Allen has taken over and full games, he has not scored under 11.7 fantasy points on those 4 targets of full games with Kyle Allen. So he's averaging about 12 fantasy points a game. And he's facing a defense that gives about average fantasy points to their tight ends. So I cannot see a way that he doesn't finish as a top tight end. Also, there's a lot of bad tight end matchups that bump him up. So I could see him with those 4 to 6 targets he'll get, most likely 4, breaking off at least 1 for a big play, which that's all you need as a tight end. So Logan Thomas, do it again. Finish in the top 5 when I put you there. Make me feel smart.
I've bumped him up to 10. I mean, I already had him above consensus at 13.
Yeah.
I've bumped him up to tight end 10. And I'll be honest, I hate Robert Tonyan.
We know you do.
The 1 week I move him up in my rankings compared to consensus.
He's probably dead to me at this point.
I
saw him get traded in a dynasty league for a third rookie pick, 3rd round. Yeah, that happened in one of my dynasty leagues. Like the owner just straight up put him on the block, and someone sent him a third and took it. And I'm like, I don't hate it, but
All right. Looking at for me, guys that I have above. So yeah, I have Logan Thomas above at 10. Eric Ebron, I have at 6. Again, I think because of the matchup, I think it really all that it's going to take is, he's been getting more targets than I expected in that Pittsburgh offense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that he likely, again, with how bad this Dallas defense is, looking at just kind of the rolling, they're about average against tight ends lately over the rolling 5 weeks. And even just as on the season overall, they give up the 12th most amount of fantasy points to tight ends. So I think that plays well for Ebron. I think that he is in for a good week. So I have him again at tight end 7 because I think he gets into the end zone.
Yeah, I don't really have him that high. I'm at 11. Again goes back to what I see the game script to be.
Yeah.
So I see the game script being more of a run-focused game, and one of the receivers breaking off a big play there. That I don't think Ebron's target share is going to be there like normal, because I don't think they're going to need to. So I could even see them sitting at Ebron for someone else, or just having him blocked more often than not.
The other one that I have well above consensus is again, this is one that everyone's going to look at, but I think it puts him in streaming tight end territory.
Mm-hmm.
Is Jordan Akins of Houston going up against the Jacksonville defense. Jacksonville, as of lately, against the tight end, gives up 3.5 points, or a little over 3 points above average over the last 5 weeks. They give up, let's see, on the season, they give up the second most amount of fantasy points to the tight ends. So while they've been doing quote unquote better over the last few weeks, at the same time they still have a weakness at covering the tight end. And for me, I believe that provides the opportunity. It does not give a lot. I mean, they don't get a lot of targets to the tight ends overall in Houston, but when they do, it's usually in the red zone.
Yeah, it's usually a touchdown. That's why Darren Fells was a good streamer going forward. I forgot to actually even put him in my rankings. He's been injured for a while, so I put him up to 16 as well when I looked at everything else I had, which just put him ahead of, I believe, Mike Gesicki in my rankings. So I agree.
I've got Gesicki at 16. So
yeah, I've got Akins at 16, Gesicki at 17. No, totally. It's definitely in the streaming. If you need a touchdown or bust player, that's definitely about. I put Fells at 25 just behind Alberto, because either one could get there.
Yep.
So hopefully you don't have to dig that deep, but if let's say you're looking between Gesicki and you were trying to get that upside, but with Tua it's not getting there, that's someone I would pivot to, but I could see either going either way. But with tight ends, you're banking on a touchdown more often than not. There's very few volume play tight ends besides like the Travis Kelce's of
Darren
the world.
Darren
Wallers, yeah. Things like that. So that's why, I mean, a lot of people don't like committing to tight ends early. I think you either commit early or late. I never grab those middle ground tight ends.
Correct.
Either like I've taken Kelce round 2 in a few drafts, and I'm very happy that I have him now.
I've in the past, I didn't this year, but in the past I have taken Travis Kelce in the second, or if he dropped to me in the third round, I mean, I'm just jumping.
Well, this was a 10-team league, and I think positional advantage is important in there.
Yeah.
So I went running back, tight end, and running back, but that's something that I never grab those middle round guys because there's always someone that you can stream.
Yeah, and so otherwise it's waiting late, and grabbing someone like and just streaming the whole season if you
Logan
need to.
Thomas.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys that you're lower on this week, I think we're in agreement on Mark Andrews.
That's about all I really got this week by consensus is Mark Andrews. The Houdini of the tight end position. He does great tricks and then he disappears. So, yeah, I think this matchup is not good for him, and he's known to disappear in good matchups. We had him lowering. They have him at tight end 3 still in ECR, and I have him at tight end 13.
I have him at 11.
I'm just outside my top 12. You have him just in your top 12 for that one. he either scores 20 or he scores 3. And I think this is one of those weeks where he scores about 3 because, again, Lamar Jackson hasn't looked good. He didn't look good last week with Marquise Brown asking for the ball more, kind of demanding the ball more. There, I can see that being more of a funnel position for that. And the matchup isn't great versus tight ends by any means.
No, so. it's the matchup is better for wide receivers. Receivers, again, looking at the Harris index and what's happened over the last rolling 5 weeks, Indianapolis gives up 3 points under for tight ends and 4 points over for wide receivers. So I could see Willie Snead outscoring Mark Andrews this week.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that with the way that they run him. Again, I just think Marquise is going to get his targets. Andrew's going to get his targets, but he has to get it for a touchdown. And I see Lamar more chance of passing it somewhere that's not heavily guarded like that. That's definitely Andrews hasn't lived up to expectations of being the guy.
Yeah.
He was great when he had other people like Hayden Hurst to kind of take away pressure from him, or like when he was getting limited snaps. And I love Mark Andrews. Don't get me wrong. He just needs to grow as a player to just be better, live up to his expectation, and he just hasn't. And the matchups really dictate whether I play him or not in my top 12 usually.
All right, I think that's it, guys. I hope that you have enjoyed this information and that you'll be able to use this. Yeah, we spit out a lot. I mean, we went for hour and 15 minutes in this episode.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do our best to make sure that you guys have the information you need to rule your fantasy leagues. So again, we hope that you guys have a good week this week. Happy that Christian McCaffrey is back. He's back.
My league of records so happy. Staring at me.
And so, again, thank you guys for taking the time to listen. This has been the SkullKing Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. On behalf of CJ, my name is Ryan Scullard, and we'll talk to you guys later. Hey, SkullKing Nation. Thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.